Good afternoon. It's evening actually, but because we've got plenty of light, then I could just tell you it's afternoon. You don't need to know that. It's the 11th of June today, and I've had another request from Matt Beamer to do a personal video. So let's talk about some of the cars that I've sourced in my job. As most of you know, I'm an independent vehicle consultant, and my job is to find cars for people. So I've been doing this since 2017, and I actually have a list here of all the cars that I've sourced, and there's actually a lot more on here than I, would initially have thought. There's, somebody will have to count these because I can't be bothered to do that, but there are, a good number of them that I've done since officially starting. I think it was May or June 2017, but my first paid car was sourced. I got into being an independent vehicle consultant because I'd helped people find cars for years, but it's on an unpaid basis, and I'd had other jobs. So I took it on as kind of an addition to some of the other work I was doing, as a sort of way of getting some supplementary income for doing what I like. And in a way, it still operates like that. It's not the only thing that I do. I've got other things as well I do with other sort of sources of income. But this is the one that in some ways I enjoy the most. And I suppose I shall continue to do it for as long as I possibly can, which should provide more entertaining content for all of you. So the first two cars on this list, a 2017 Skoda Citigo and an Audi A3, I sourced those not as in any paid capacity, as just doing a favour for a couple of friends. The Citigo and the A3 you'll probably see actually on the channel at some stage. They're both cars which I've been offered for review. The Citigo was absolutely brand new and was a factory order. It took a few months to actually arrive. The Audi A3 was from a used car garage. It done very low mileage. It done 45,000 miles, I think, when that was picked up in 2017 at 19 years old. I should have said at the start that I'm not going to tell you the locations I picked these cars up at. I'm not going to tell you the names of the clients. I'm not going to tell you the colours of the cars. I do believe very much in confidentiality of the people I've worked for, and I don't think they appreciate giving out anything other than just the year, the make and the model of the car. So that is what I'm going to do, if that's okay. The first car that I actually got in terms of somebody, allowing me to pay them for doing it was a 2012 Chevrolet Cruze 1.8 LTZ automatic. By that stage, I'd owned two Chevrolet Cruzes and I knew them very well. And I had a request to pick up something like the car that I had. So that's what I did. And this one was low mileage and it had everything. It had sat-nav, Bluetooth, everything like that. It was a 1.8 petrol automatic. They're not very common, but this was the facelifted car, so it looked rather nice actually. Then I went on to source a 2010 Kia Ceed 1.6 diesel that was a 3 trim. Surprisingly, that has a nice sort of part leather interior, but it doesn't have parking sensors on it. It looked very nice actually. That car's still going as far as I know. Then I moved on to a 2005 Hyundai Getz. That was the cheapest car I ever sourced. That was £800. It didn't come in a parcel shelf, but what the client that I had, the car history that they'd had before, it was a pretty nice car. Working air conditioning and a CD player was, not something they'd had before, so that was great. And at the same time, I picked up a 2003 Seat Leon 1.6S as a Mark 1, very similar to the one that I had when I was younger. I had a 1.4 because of the lower insurance costs and the better fuel consumption. But they're still quite nice cars to have if you can pick one up. And that was, I think, £900. So, yes, it was pretty good. Something that I was discussing today with Ben from Planet Auto and Ellis, who you'll sort of see on my channel, was a 2008 Ford Fiesta Mark 6 facelift. I picked that up. It'd done 22,000 miles. It was a 1.4 1.4 style Climate, which is quite a rare specification. It still had plastic wheel trims and still had manual door mirrors, but it had air conditioning and a very, very nice Sony Bluetooth sound system, which must be an option. That was the last year they made the Mark 6 Fiesta, so it was quite a find. It would be owned by one person from New, an elderly person, and we still found things like their sort of walking stick and stuff in the boot. It was quite weird. The car had done 22,000 miles in about 10 years, and mechanically was 100%, been serviced every year. MOT was fine. The only things that were probably wrong with MOT were where the previous owner had damaged the car by backing it out of a garage or something. Yes, it was pretty nice to drive generally. This had a really nice little sort of 5-speed manual gearbox on it. It just drove like new, Fords are often very nice to drive, and this is no exception. Another surprise was a 2010 Kia Proceed 1.4 SR7. This is like a 3-door version of the Kia Ceed. They're not very common, and this was for someone who's having a first car, and it had been owned by the same person from New. They just weren't really using it. They had a work van and sort of like that. It's a private owner, and it was in really nice condition. Very, very nice car. We looked at a Golf as well and a Polo, but this really stood out. It was a lot cheaper than the Golf and the Polo, and offered much better value for money. Really like Kia Ceeds and Proceeds and things like that. That said, I did source the Volkswagen Golf Mark 6. It was a 2009 model. It was 1.4S base model, and it was in quite nice condition actually. They don't have much power. These 1.4Ss, they're about 75 horsepower or something. But yeah, it was fine for what my client wanted. They were particularly after something like that, and I'm very happy to oblige. It was a reasonable price. It was somewhere that was, I'll just say, it was not in London. They tend to be a bit more expensive in London, Golf, for some reason. So we sourced it out of London, and yeah, it was fine. Then we get on to Seats, and oh my gosh, I've sourced a lot of Seats for people. I really like them. They're very good cars. One of the first ones was a 2014 Seat Toledo 1.2 TSI SE, which was a pre-facelift car. Mine's a post-facelift car, but a client did really see a lot of difference between mine and this one, and he really liked it. It was, I think, £7,500 at 3 years old, which I don't think is bad value for money really. So that was nice. Then another Seat that I got about the same time, 2016 Seat Alhambra 2-litre TDI, a Euro 6 compliant car, was automatic. I think this was a sort of mid-spec trim as far as I know. They're really nice cars actually. They're quite big. Definitely need parking sensors on those. But yeah, this has done quite high mileage. A lot of them are used by fleet companies and hire car companies, but they've been properly serviced and it was fine. Just got to remember to top your AdBlue up on that one. But yeah, the Seat Alhambra is a very good value people carrier if that's the sort of thing that you're after. Then we get onto some rarer cars. This was a 2006 Subaru Forester, so Euro 4 compliant. This one had 2 owners from New. It had low mileage and it was automatic. I haven't driven a Subaru before that, and it was an interesting experience. The new owners seemed to really like it. The fuel consumption on them is not very good, but they were particularly after that. They were after a car with a raised ride height that was like an estate type car, and they'd had a Passat before that had pretty much died. Done like 250,000 miles, and I think they got on with it pretty well. Then there is the Vauxhall Agila. I've done 2 Vauxhall Agilas actually. One was a 2006 Agila Mark 1. Both of the Agilas I've done have been the upper trim levels, both with the 1.2, what's called the twin port engine out of the Corsa, which develops about 82 to 85 horsepower. 2006 model was pretty nice. I think it only had about 2 owners and it done 80,000 miles or something. That was about £1,200. Again, I think that was the first car. Then the other one, that was one a lot more recently. That was about £3,000, if I remember correctly. That was the newer shape Agila. That was, I think, a 2011 model as far as I know. The mileage was quite low, about 45,000 or something. Again, it's a good car. You can tell the difference in generation between the two of them. The more modern one's got much nicer styling, and it's a lot more comfortable to drive. I found the first generation Agila quite uncomfortable to drive for me personally. Obviously, you know, the Suzuki Wagon R Plus is the same car. I don't know if it's just me, but I didn't find it very comfortable. But the client that I had was not the same build as me at all, so it didn't really matter. Vauxhalls do offer very good value for money, and another one that I managed to find was, I think for 1650, it was a 2006 Vauxhall Astra 1.6. I forget the trim level. There are so many trim levels on the Astra, so don't quote me on that. But that was, yeah, it was nice. It was a 2-owner car, Vauxhall fleet plates on it, which always makes me feel happy. And the private owner who'd had it for a number of years had always had it serviced on the button, had a cam belt change done in it. I think it only done 70,000 miles, so that was really good. Another Vauxhall I found was a 2012 Vauxhall Corsa 1.3 diesel. Now this is for a client that who lives out of London, obviously. Otherwise it'd be problematic. This is a very low mileage car. It was ex-MOD, something like 16,000 miles or something. Perfect condition. Always servicing genuine parts. Not afraid of getting an ex-MOD or car or anything like that. But tend to be very, very well looked after. So that was good. Then we get on to some more Seats. Seat Leon ST from 2016, you'll probably be seeing that in a video quite soon. Seat Leon Mark II, that was a 1.4 TSI, that was called the twin charger engine, 125 horsepower, turbocharger and supercharger. Very nice actually, that car. I am fond of that. Very sporty looking car, with that one had a little optional spoiler kit on it. And my client is happy with it. That's still going as far as I know. Next, there was Ford Fusion. Now, this wasn't ideally, I think, what my client imagined that they would get, but for the money and the fact it was an automatic, it was actually quite a nice car. Again, it was low number of owners, about 2008. Just felt like a big Fiesta, really. Nice specification, called a Fusion Plus, I think that was the top model at the time. Very underrated cars, massively underrated, very cheap in the second-hand market, but pretty dependable, really. Next, I did a Vauxhall Vectra, 2005 Vauxhall Vectra. I actually mentioned this in one of my videos. This car is Euro 4 compliant, and it was a 1.8 LS. It done maybe 65, no, less than that, about 58,000 miles, I think, in 14 years, which isn't very much. And, the air conditioning worked and things like that. Cam belt had been changed. The previous owner really hadn't driven it very much. So the price of £850, I think it was an absolute bargain for that, which was great. Ultra emission zone compliant, it was Euro 4, which was great. Then there was the Mitsubishi Space Star. It was a funny one. I mean, my client and I looked at a number of cars, and this was the one that was kind of the best. We needed a car quite quickly, and we just happened to find this one. It was an automatic and quite a high spec. It had air conditioning and things like that. It was all right to drive. I've never really driven a Mitsubishi before, apart from on a track, and this one actually wasn't too bad. A lot of people say Space Stars are rubbish, but this one was fine. I think you get to the sort of age and price of the car, I think was around the £1,250 mark. It's far more important what condition the car's in than actually what it is, if that makes sense. I'll finish off by, going over sort of, once again, talking about Vauxhalls and Seat. Sorry, no, actually, not a Seat. It's a Kia Ceed SW. Again, a similar situation to many of the clients that I have. Needed a car very quickly and found this 2010 1.6 petrol Kia Ceed SW that had done about 100,000 miles. This was the 3 trim, which has everything: cruise control, leather interior, parking sensors, climate control. As with most Kias that I seem to drive, really, really surprising cars. Very high quality, extremely well made. Nothing really wrong with that actually, and that was 2,900 or something. Lots and lots of room, nice alloy wheels, good colour. Yeah, that was a good job. But replaced, I think, a Citroen Xsara Picasso or something, which I think is an improvement. Then the last car, Vauxhall Insignia. This was a diesel, elite nav, I think, so very high spec. I quite like Insignias. Apart from the rear headroom's a bit restricted, they are very, very, very cheap on the second-hand market for what you get. Much cheaper than a BMW or anything like that. This one has had 2 owners from new. Again, Vauxhall fleet car, then a private owner. Serviced on the button. Wasn't even due a cam belt change, I don't think, or it had one. It had a full service history anyway. That was in the region of £7,300 as far as I know, and it was a 2013 model. It was just pre the facelift that they had, but very nice. Bit of a dark interior as far as I'm concerned. It's not my favourite to have a very dark interior in a car, but I think loads of people quite like it, and it was very, very highly specified. The only thing it didn't have, as far as I know, was the reversing camera, but had everything else that you could want: heated seats, sat nav, and all-round parking sensors, dual zone climate control, yeah, it's a nice car. So that video went on a bit longer than I'd imagined, but there's a lot more cars that I'd actually sourced that I imagined I had done. So I suppose that's nice in a way. So if you found that interesting anyway, please don't forget to visit my website, www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk, and use the contact tab to get in touch with me if you wish me to source a car for you. It doesn't have to be anything on this list, although I do know a fair bit about all of these now I've sourced these, so maybe that means something to somebody. Also, my mother's Mercedes-Benz C-Class should be on this list, but I didn't get paid with that, so maybe it shouldn't be. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you ever so much indeed for watching.